can't remember what day she called me on, but I talked to her.
I'm gonna move you down. Russell's not gonna be here.
Who?
Russell.
That's always my operation.
It's a little bit past 6 o'clock here on Tuesday, March the 14th, and I'd ask that we all please rise as we call this meeting to order, and I'll lead us in an invocation. Dear Heavenly Father, thank you for this opportunity to come together as a city government and as citizens and as staff people so that we can lead this community forward in a way such it would be honoring to you. We would just ask that the decisions that we make would be guided by your wisdom, and that the conclusions that we would come to would be to the benefit of all the residents of the city of Murfreesboro. In your holy name we pray. Amen. Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk Ripley, would you please call the roll?
Alderman Hughes. Here. Alderman Brown is absent. Alderman Voss.
Here.
Alderman McComb.
Here.
Alderman Bratton is absent. Alderman Urbis.
Here.
Sorry, Alderman Pearson.
I'm here.
Alderman Campos. And Alderman Wilkins.
All right, thank you everyone who is here this evening. I want to first thank the council members who signed this very nice card that was given to me before the start of the meeting, as I got married last Saturday. Was it last Saturday? I can't even remember. It's been Saturday a week ago. It's kind of been a little bit of a blur.
2 years ago.
Yeah, I'm never going to remember my anniversary at this rate, but
You'll only forget it once.
you'll only forget it once. So, in any case, thank you very much for that. That was very kind. I appreciate it. We'll get into our regular items here. First off, we have the consideration of council minutes from February the 28th, 2017, and I'd entertain any questions concerning those minutes at this time. Hearing and seeing no questions, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes from February 28th.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have the consideration of accounts payable, accounts receivable, and payroll registers. I believe there was an additional one right before handed out before the meeting. So, questions on the bills?
Under the audit, $861, that has to just be for a couple of days or something. It's surely
Yes.
not the whole audit, is it?
Yeah, they just do a monthly billing of what they've done.
Okay.
Any other questions on the bills?
I got mine answered.
Okay.
And Danny didn't call me with any, so.
Well, yeah, you can't help but have him come to mind during this section of the programming. So, all right, well, I'd entertain a motion to pay the bills.
So moved.
Second.
There's a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. All right, that takes us into the regular committee and commission reports. Under Budget and Finance, we don't have any old, new business there. So I'd entertain any public comment on items of a Budget and Finance nature. The only thing I would, I guess, mention is we did have a big payment to River City on the wastewater treatment plant, so getting closer to getting that taken care of. Miss Kathy Norton. Yes, ma'am.
Years ago, they took out a grant for that particular thing. And I don't know how much the grant was, but then they decided to go ahead and charge the people in Murfreesboro $10 extra on there. Is that $10 extra still going towards the payment?
It is, and, you know, the short answer is that it's about a $15 million facility, and the monies that were built up, you know, helped apply a down payment, and now those monies that are being paid are helping pay back the EPA loan. A lot of people have asked that question about why, we're continuing to pay that. Well, it's because, we have to pay the loan,
Exactly.
and so it's,
I was just wondering if it was still going forward.
yes, yes, it is.
City paid off pretty soon, huh?
Well,
I
I
wish.
guess,
That time it was where we're
20
at.
years.
yeah, definition of soon, I guess. Scott Evans isn't here this evening, but,
It's 20-year loan.
it's a 20-year loan, so.
Have we even started paying yet?
You know what, we have,
I heard no.
so we have not started to pay back on that, okay.
Our first payment, I think, is in May.
Is due this year, soon,
2 payments this year.
Yes,
Right.
May and November.
okay,
My grandkids got that in.
yeah. All right, any other, public comment concerning items of a budget and finance nature? All right, hearing none, we'll go to, building and grounds. Obviously, Mr. Russell Brown is not here this evening. Sandra, is he still recovering from his, knee surgery?
Yes, he had a follow-up appointment today.
All right, so we'll continue to keep Russell in our thoughts and prayers for his recovery. No old or new business there. Any public comment concerning public grounds items? All right, that'll take us into community relations chaired by Alderman Dan Bratton. I'll handle these items in his absence. Under old business, we have a request by First Baptist Church to vacate Logan Street from 15th to 16th, and I'd open that up for discussion from the council. Mr. McComb.
We do have systems down through. I don't see there's any way we can ever do that. I know there's storms that are down there right at the bottom, but I don't think there's any way in going for safety reasons for the house around there for a fire truck to get to. I don't think there's any way we're ever gonna be able to do that and do it in a safe manner.
Understood. Any other?
I would agree that we shouldn't close the street, but, I just think it would set a bad, we can't close every street somebody wants to close. That's actually a pretty well-used street in that neighborhood.
Sure. Well, I tend to be of agreement. I, understand what they're trying to accomplish there, but, at the same time, I just don't know that we're gonna be able to get there. I'm most concerned about if there's a gate or something there, which is how it would be closed.
Yeah, and they were only gonna close off one end of it, and I'm not sure how they were going to do that, but I worry about fire if they happen to come down at the safety of their building,
Right.
if they couldn't get to that. Now, you and I know there's only one resident that lives on that street between 15th and 16th, and at some point, probably the church will own that property.
Yeah.
Of Miss King's, and, at that point, if there's no residents there, and that, if it would be closed off completely, I don't know if that would cause as big a problem as when there's still a resident.
Right.
I don't know.
Mr. McComb.
We'll close that street off, and I think fire chief might agree with this. There's no way to get behind those houses, right behind the church on 16th Street from behind then, is it?
Well, we can still get in the alley from Poplar, but they got it closed off at the end.
We vacated that, didn't we, over a year ago?
I don't think we vacated the whole alley. I thought
We didn't
closed it
vacate,
there
we
a
didn't
while.
vacate the alley there. It was never an alley.
Oh,
That's how that came about.
okay.
I'd
There
make
was
a
never an
motion.
alley up to the point where the alley starts now. It was always part of that, it was platted as part of the property there at the
Okay.
church home. It never was an alley from there on out to the street.
It seemed like one when I was a kid, but.
Yeah, it was always an
Lived in
open,
that
it was always
neighborhood.
open, but it never was
Yeah.
really an alley.
I see.
I'd make a motion, we don't do it.
I would second that.
All right, we have a motion and a second to deny the request from First Baptist Church to vacate Logan Street from 15th to 16th. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. That takes us into new business. We have a request by St. Peter's Church to use Smizer Plaza for the Easter sunrise service that they are planning on doing. Any,
I believe this is their third year that they'll be using
And are they coordinating with First Baptist Church also, I believe?
That's my understanding.
So they're making the request, but I think both those congregations are going to be participating.
I'll make a motion, let them do it.
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second to grant the request from St. Peter's Church. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. We also have a request by Emmanuel Lutheran Church for a 5K on May the 13th. They'll be using the high school route. This is their Marcy Weber 5K that they're doing again. I got to see that you've got their info there. Sandra, I guess they've checked all the boxes. Okay,
I'll make a motion, let them do it.
all right. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. This next item is one that I put on the agenda, and I'll try to sort of summarize this as best I can. Several months ago, we had a company present, and they were talking about different things with the smartphones that they could do. And I kind of been thinking about that over the course of several months. And working at the radio station in Ava, I often get faxes from the city about boil water orders. And as much as I love radio because I work in it, it is kind of an inefficient way to let people in town know about things like boil water orders whenever, you know, we send a fax to a radio station and you hope that the 19-year-old DJ grabs it off the machine and then reads it over the air, and somebody that lives on 20th Street happens to be tuned in at that particular moment. So I had Sandra do some research on these different companies that just do mass text messaging. Anybody that has school-age kids know that sometimes they get messages from the school district on their phone about, you know, kids being let out of school early or whatever. To condense it down, the best service that myself and Sandra were able to find would cost about $160 a month. And people could sign up to receive updates from the city that had come to their smartphones. But I know sometimes the council probably gets weary of me coming here with, you know, one more thing to spend money on, and where are we going to find the money for it? So I reached out to Southern Illinois Healthcare, and they would be willing to pay us a sponsorship of $200 a month every month for a year to cover that $160 a month. And essentially, a person would get a text message when we had a boil water order on the phone. It'd say where it was, and you know, and they'd get the cancellation also. And then just on the bottom, it would say, this message brought to you by St. Joseph Memorial Hospital. So I think it's a way to better inform people and help, and provide a funding stream too. Mr. McComb.
Will you sign up for that for a year, Will?
I'm sorry?
You sign up for 1 year when you sign up for it, or do you have to sign up for a certain amount of time?
The citizen,
No,
the SIH?
you know,
No, the contract
the
with
contract.
the provider.
the provider.
Oh,
how-
yes.
How long?
Um,
Is it a year contract or 2 years?
You know, I've got some information on them here, and I failed to staple these pages together, but it doesn't, I think we can, I'm not sure, but Sandra, do you remember? I should have the answer to that, and I
I
don't.
wanna say it's a month-to-month thing, because you can change, you can upgrade, you can downgrade if you don't use,
Let's see here.
but I don't,
And would, you could put anything out there that was, you wanted to go citywide. It would
You-
not just have to be boil.
No, it could be,
It could be,
Amber alerts or
or,
yeah, like an Amber Alert or something like that.
you know, or if the fireworks were gonna be canceled,
Yeah.
you know, things like that. I think that we would wanna be sort of careful about, you know, making sure the things that we're notifying people about are truly city and, you know, involved events. We can't
and
get,
not things like this.
and not like, you know, letting everybody know about such and so's trivia night, or,
No.
you know.
No, I think that it should be important things to their safety or
Right.
well-being or their scheduling, you know.
I'd make a motion, we try it for a year and then see how everything's working on it.
Well, SIH, I do want to say this, they said that they would pay us in advance, the $2,400 in one check if we approve.
That'd give us a year of it.
That'd give
and
us a
then we
little
can-
over a
All
year,
that we
Is
actually.
there a startup fee or anything like that with the
No.
company?
Sandra says no, and I
Okay.
usually believe her when she tells me things, so.
I
do
confirmed
have a
that today.
question. How would
I
the
did confirm.
citizens sign up, like through the water department or?
Well, the way that I've seen most of these things happen is that we would have to publicize through a press release or something that, and we would create, so I take my phone and I send a text message to Murphy Gov,
Uh-huh,
or to some number,
Yeah.
and then you're automatically enrolled.
okay.
Brian, you've got some experience maybe with this at the high school, is that,
Typically, what we would do is there would be some sort of, as you said, a number or a, address that you text to. And through certain options, you could opt in or opt out. The other way that I've seen it done is through a website where people are directed to a certain website and put in your number, sometimes your cell carrier, and, sign off that you agree to receive these text messages, and then you're enrolled. So depending on the service, there may be one or multiple ways to do that.
Well, everybody gets a water bill too, pretty well in town, you put on the water bill, so let
Right.
them know. I make a motion, we try it for a year.
all right, we have a motion and a second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, everybody, for giving that a try for a year. I think it could turn out to be a good thing.
And we got a way to pay for it, so.
Right.
It's wonderful.
Right.
I think it's nothing but positive for the constituent.
Sure. All right, any public comment on items concerning community relations? Mr. Laughlin?
That's not limited just to water though, correct? You could use it
No.
for whatever emergencies that might be going on in town, avoid this area.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. So, it's open to anything that the city itself, I think governmentally wants to, get out there. So, like, don't blow your grass in the street after you mow.
Danny would like that, pick up all of your gumballs.
Yeah, we are banning gumball trees as of today. But,
Alderman McComb's on the west side of town, don't blow your lawn clippings.
Hey, it's already started this year.
I know it, yeah.
I know.
I've done been down to code enforcement with it.
All right, that takes us to, public improvement, chaired by, Mr. Gary McComb. Gary?
Under old business, have you found anything about the weight on,
Well,
on
no,
our
but
alleys?
we had, talked about inviting the, trash haulers, and I know it looks like we have representatives from Republic here. And I wanted to give them an opportunity to maybe help figure out how we can figure this out.
And I'll tell you guys the problem we got with it for your addresses, so you kinda know. So many of the big trucks are in our alley. And every time, say they go down 20th Street and turn through an alley, they might go a block or two and they cut it back out. They're so big, they cut the edge of our culverts and smashing them. Edges of curves in different places. They're running over them. We're trying to figure out a way to use small trucks in town. Not saying you gotta have them in 2 weeks, because maybe you guys don't have any small trucks. But we're trying to address that problem, getting the smaller trucks in our alleys. And that's why you guys are here, and that's what we wanna know about. Go ahead.
Yeah, well, I brought Jason here, he's my ops manager, so he's responsible for the trucks.
And I'm sorry to interrupt, but just for the record, could you, just state your name and
That's why, I
the
don't know if I've ever addressed the council.
group that you're with?
My
Yeah.
name's Kirk Kearney, I'm the actual account manager for Republic Services.
Okay,
And, of course, Sandra invited me, over here to talk about this, and of course, we're open to solutions, whatever helps, Murfreesboro and the alleys, and that's one of the reasons why I brought Jason Ulrich, who is our ops manager. He is actually responsible for the pickups and for the trucks and for the safety and everything that's involved with the trucks. He is kind of aware, I kind of would like to, maybe get his insight too, because he's kind of aware of, and being responsible for picking up, you know, the trash and that sort of thing, aware of kind of how the situation goes, the routes and things of that nature. I didn't know if the council, would consider, a potential way of us avoiding the alleys. Has it ever been discussed, Mr. Mayor, that, maybe we could pick up something on the streets out front? Would that be a possible solution?
Well, we had talked about that at the last meeting, and I guess we're open to feedback. The only thing that, you know, we have to overcome there is that we have a lot of, you know, people that park on the street. And so, you know, just corralling that and figuring out how you guys can effectively pick up trash curbside, say on 20th Street, and right now there's probably 60 cars parked on 20th Street from Gart side to Commercial. That's the thought there.
I
Ms.
do have
Hughes?
one other comment. I live in the historic preservation area, and we don't really have many alleys down in that area, and there are a lot of, brick streets, that are still the old bricks made here, I believe. And, in fact, that may be one up there. And, I mean, we don't have the luxury of an alley, so we do use the, curbside type of, disposal system. Now, it's also a problem in that area because those streets are very old and crumbly. So it's not just an alley problem, it's also some of the older streets in Murfreesboro that the big trucks really do damage as they come through. And there's, you know, of course, in all fairness, you can come through with a Ford 150 or whatever and probably tear up a brick street that was made in, you know, 18 whatever. So, but that's also a consideration that I would like to see addressed, not because I live there necessarily, but because that area has a pretty good high population of people that do have curbside.
The communities around the area have went to weight limits on their, you know, their side streets and their, you know, you guys gotta have business routes because tractor trailers do come through your towns. But a lot of communities, I think, Campbell Hill, Sparta, communities like that have went where they can't allow big trucks on their side streets. Set it at 8 tons or 10 tons or whatever. It basically takes us out of the competition because we don't run small trucks. But it is something communities have done to try to get away from it. Because I know we run Centralia and we run all alleys. We do the whole town of Centralia, it's one of our contracts. And we run it all in the alleys. By springtime, when we get to the rainy season, their alleys are shot. You know, they fill them in the best they can, but they're another community that don't want to move their trash out to the curbside because the residents have done it forever. They said they've tried in the past to get them out. They couldn't get anybody to go for it, but I know what it does here. I mean, we had a truck sink through one of your alleys last year. I know, and one of the maintenance people came out and filled it all in for us because it went, we were just driving down the road and went right to the alley. So I understand the concern. I didn't think it would be my boss's thing. I don't think we would run with a small truck. I can't say we wouldn't, I can't say we would. That's above my head, you know, but.
Does the company itself have small trucks
We
somewhere?
In certain areas, yes, we do run small trucks. Not like, Burris runs real small trucks.
Yeah.
We don't run any of those really anywhere. But we do have single axle rear loaders, you know, and stuff like that. I mean, there are options. I don't know if they'd wanna sink the capital in doing it without a contract, you know, without a whole citywide contract. You know, because it's basically up to the citizens here in this town if they want us or not, you know? They all decide tomorrow they didn't want us and we bought a $300,000 truck just for doing it. You know, it'd be a lot of capital to put in place for all the residents to say, well, we're gonna go with Burris, we're gonna go with so-and-so, you know? So I don't know if that would be an option they'd wanna do or not, or if you went with, you know, an 8-ton limit on your roads if we just pull out of town. I'm not sure, that's above me, you know? That's something we go through my boss and our corporate office and all that.
And another thing, the reason why I actually brought Jason is, you know, with the single axle, you were talking about a smaller truck.
It's a smaller truck, yes.
And what's the, I mean, what would be the weight issues there with that? I mean, how could that alleviate?
I mean, it's a lot less weight, you know, we're pulling, on our empty trucks coming in town now, we're probably 15 tons empty. You know, with a single axle truck, you're probably talking 8 to 10 tons empty, you know? So it's a lot less weight, it's just you need a lot more of them to do the same amount of trash. You know, we can do, with one of our trucks, probably 5 times what Burris can do with one of their trucks.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, we are putting a lot more weight on your streets.
Yeah, we're not trying to, that's the reason why we wanna talk to different people. We're not trying to get you out of the city of Murfreesboro, we don't want you to think that. But it is costing us a lot of money to maintain what the big trucks are tearing up, and that's why we're looking at it.
Oh, I understand. I've seen your alleys. You know, I've rode most of these alleys with the drivers, and I know what they gotta do to turn in and out of some of these. And there's been a couple I've said we can't do. You know, we either asked our residents if they could put them out curbside, or I just said, we're just gonna not go in there because it was unsafe for my driver and unsafe, we felt, for your streets,
Yeah.
so. I mean, I understand, you know, I don't think any of these cities that went to the lower weight limits tried to push us out of towns. I know they had somebody with small trucks basically in there telling them what to do, but it did push us out. And I know nobody wants to do that, you know, but
Mr. Pearson?
If you went to curbside and we have many streets that parking's only on one side, most of our streets are only on one side, would you want the curbside on the side, the trash on the side with no parking, or could you put it on either side?
I mean, in an ideal world.
Because I know a lot of those things you pick up
Yeah, we're picking up
mechanic.
everything with no, in
Yeah.
our ideal world, we'd like them on one side, but we don't want a resident dragging their cart across the street either, though.
Well, that's where we would get a lot of opposition, I'm sure.
Right, because I know this, you know, and there's, you know, a lot of streets are parked that way, a lot of cars on one side.
But most of our streets are
Right.
one-side parking mostly on the south side.
And that's what I've only been down this area about 2 years, and I actually moved to Murfreesboro when I came down here. And that's what I've noticed down here, is that a lot of these communities, you know, there's a lot of curbside parking, and that's why they go with the alley service. But they do, everyone I know puts a lot of money in maintenance of the alleys with those big trucks, even the smaller trucks in there, any trucks in there really, you know.
How many days a week are you running in Murfreesboro?
We only run residential in Murfreesboro 2 days. We run on a Monday and a Thursday. So we basically
Okay.
do from 14th where Pizza Hut is, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
14th west on Monday, and then basically everything else kind of on Thursday. Now, we do run commercial trucks down here every day because, you know, a lot of your restaurants and stuff need everyday service. So a lot of that,
Residential twice a week.
residential twice a week. The commercial, most of that's not in your alleys. That's not, you know, the issue we're having with the alleys.
I guess I could, it's not a question, it's just a statement, and that's that if they're only running 2 days a week and we went to curbside, I'm probably being naive to think that we could properly publicize it to where people would, coordinate themselves to where they don't park on the street on Mondays and Thursdays.
But there's one
What
more
world are
than,
you living in?
I mean,
there's more than one trash hauler in town too.
right, but they're using the smaller trucks, so,
Well, not all of them.
really?
Aren't there other bigger trucks?
I would say
I know Burris uses a small truck.
that Burris, if they're running a tandem axle truck, and I know they are,
They do,
all
yes.
different axles are
Uh-huh.
tandem axles. They're not double axles, but they're still 2 wheels on each side.
Mm-hmm.
They're gonna do damage to your alleys too, even if
Are
they're
you
in town.
and Burris the only haulers in town that you know of?
I think there's some little local people that run, but they're probably running smaller trucks.
Okay.
And I don't know what
Well, the
Burris
other
all
day
runs
I
here. I know
noticed
Burris,
some-
when they're picking up their load containers, have to have a big truck like us, because that's the way they gotta do it, you know,
We're
but.
invited to be here as well.
Yeah, Sandra just made a good point. Burris was invited to be here tonight, and don't know why they were unable to attend, but they were invited.
We tried to go to one trash pickup, and I think you guys were low bid at that time, and it was voted down on the council. Not that that would have solved our problem, but part of that was gonna be small trucks.
But it would solve some of the problem, because now we're in the alleys, Burris is in the alleys. If somebody else is in the alley, I don't know. You know, there's a lot of trucks running down the alley. If you went with one company, you'd only have one truck in that alley.
Yeah, and he run the whole length
You
before
run
he
the
come
whole
back out.
length of it, you know?
That was
Like
good.
with the bigger trucks, like I said earlier, with the bigger trucks, I can pick up a lot of this town with one big truck. You know, Burris needs 4 or 5 trucks to get to the same thing I'm doing with one. Yeah, mine's heavier, but I could
He's
probably
running
use.
it more.
Yeah, how many actual households do you have?
Well, it's like 3,800 and something, is that our water billing?
4,000.
Yeah.
See, I could probably do that in 5 days with one truck,
Mm-hmm.
and that would be it. Just section off the town, do it in 5 days. That's all you'd have running through your alley is one truck. Burris would probably take 5 trucks,
maybe,
Mhm.
small, but a lot less weight.
Any other thoughts from the council or questions?
I
Ms. Campbell?
usually, whenever the trash pickup happen is usually when everybody is pretty much at work. So the cars parked on the curb is not as usual except whenever we are on holidays or vacation day. But usually whenever the trash pickup goes, everybody pretty much is at work. So the traffic, putting the trash on the curb, it's doable. I mean, I used to have birds for 30-some years, and now I have them, and I just I put my trash there, and they come and they pick up from both sides of the street, and that's it. But it doesn't really affect. The way that I feel that it might be some interference, it will be on Walnut Street with the traffic, going back and forth, and the trucks, but it's not that many resident
Mm-hmm.
households there, daily business.
Well, I don't know really what the solution is here, because I think that one of the things that I've brought up is that if we force, in a sense, smaller trucks, it will eliminate options, it sounds like, potentially. And I had even thought perhaps the city could levy some sort of franchise fee, if you will, to help supplement the cost of maintaining our alleyways. But of course, that's going to be passed along the consumer by the trash hauler, and so, it's a backdoor tax increase essentially to help keep our alleys up. So it's a problem with a lot of angles, and it's the reason why we got a city council, because hopefully we can figure out how to do something or maybe nothing. Mr. Urbis?
Do you currently have weight limits on our streets?
We do, and I think I look at our attorney for some clarification there.
Just on certain streets. There are certain streets, if you look at city code, have a 10-ton limit on certain streets, but not throughout the town.
And I read where Marion had
Which ones do, don't.
Marion had limited, based upon certain streets and things the other day, the weights of the trucks. But here's my question for you gentlemen, and that's that, so Marion says you can't be over 10 tons on street XYZ. So, I mean, are you guys pulling your trucks onto a scale in Marion every time you leave town to make sure you're...
We are not using those streets anymore. Any street they said we can't go on.
You just don't service them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, would you guys venture into looking into going with one hauler again, or is that something that got voted down and will be a no forever?
We voted it was actually a citywide vote at one time, and it was voted down.
Well,
It might have been twice, but then I think one time the council voted it down.
But I think if you guys did decide to go to a contract and leave them to where they were in the alleys, that you could probably put, like you said, some kind of franchise fee in there to where, we'd be locked in on the price per home, but then you also might be getting the council or the city might be getting something back,
Right.
saying, hey,
For maintenance.
to service our city, we want this amount of money for road maintenance, for a year in the contract. Which, it would be passed along to the consumer at some point, but at least they'd have a contract in place saying, this is what it's gonna cost per year, for 5 years or 2 years, or.
Right. Well, what's the pleasure of the council? I don't suspect we're gonna have any motions here this evening.
Well, I think they give us a little bit of light on the weight on the trucks, and that's what we're looking for, and go into more discussion at a later date.
Okay.
I don't think it's anything that we've researched enough to vote on tonight, but I don't want you guys thinking anyway we're trying to get you out of Murfreesboro. That's not what we're doing.
No, I understand your guys' side of it, you're spending money on maintenance that you're not getting anything out of. You're basically paying for us servicing your customers,
Right.
and you guys aren't seeing no benefit of it. I understand that completely.
All right, we thank you very much for being in attendance and sharing some of your thoughts with us on the issue. And if there's nothing further from the council, we'll move on to the next item. Thank you again.
Thank
Thanks
you,
for
guys.
coming.
Okay, I had this put on here regarding the landscape waste ordinance. We was gonna start the 1st of March with the stickers for down there. And we haven't really, we didn't go far enough in detail to let Sandra or Leslie, whoever up there, know what form ID we want. You know, I talked to Mr. Robert there, and he said they can't ask for a driver's license up there for these stickers.
Can or cannot?
Can.
Okay,
And if they don't have a driver's license, we could go to the water bill or the power bill.
okay.
But they need some way to get them the sticker to put on their vehicle.
For the folks that are using the holding area essentially as a, but we're trying to limit, as folks may remember, the landscape contractors or whomever it may be coming from Carbondale and surrounding area and using when it's supposed to be a benefit for residents.
Yeah, and we voted to do it, but we really probably got to discussing more into it that night, but we didn't get in, so we kinda pushed it back. But we figure out, and do we want the stickers attached to the windshield? Not where somebody's carrying a sticker around and giving it to the next guy to
Right.
use. I mean, I presume Sandra will have a number on that sticker, like 1, 2, something.
Well, that was Leslie and I's question. Do you want us to maintain a list of who has these? Is it a yearly permit?
It-
You know,
That's what we had discussed before. Good for the year. If we start this late, it's good for the year, cause we wasn't gonna charge anything for them anyway, was we?
No.
no, it's,
Okay, so if you put the date on them, they'd be good for 2017, and then we'd have to roll out something in
So,
18, so it'd just be for the
calendar
rest of
year?
the
calendar year?
calendar year, right? Cause you would have so many of them staggered going,
Right,
one get one on the last of April, one on the 1st of March, and we're not charging, so we give it to them for the year of 2017 and the 2018 when it rolls around. Do we wanna make sure they attach them to the vehicle somehow?
yeah, I think that's, you know, some people don't like attaching things to their vehicle, and I understand that, but
Oh, I do too.
I think that, you know, to make them effective, they almost have to be.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, it's like, you know, when, I never did this, but sometimes you'd maybe steal a hall pass out of the teacher's, you know, desk, and then you could
Never did that.
leave class anytime you wanted to.
Are you sure?
And some of
I
them-
heard some people have done it,
You heard about that?
yeah.
Go ahead, Sandra.
Well, in the ordinance as it stands right now, it's to be placed in the window of a vehicle. Well, for consistency, you know, is Darren's guy supposed to look at all the windows, or should it be
Should be in the front or back, I
the back
imagine, because,
left, or, you know, that's, for consistency, we thought that would be better if it was named actually where.
well,
Or in the lower right corner of the windshield would probably be a good place, isn't it? You don't wanna put it left side where the obstruct the driver's view at all.
well, that's
even
what
though
I
it'd
was
be
talking
small.
about. If we leave it on the back glass on either side, the
Yeah.
guys can look at it and see.
Backwards.
Either one, like Bill
Yeah.
said, lower right of the windshield or the
Make a
back,
difference.
back glass. One or the other, I would go with, in a sense, lower right on the windshield would allow, as, you know, as a guy's standing there and a car's approaching them, they can just see it
Mm-hmm.
and wave them in
Certainly gets your-
instead of, you know,
Waving them in and they discover they're not.
you know, hey, I got mine, you punch your gas and, you know, I mean, that's sort of a silly scenario, but it might be easier for them to see it if it was there.
Lower windshield instead of rear.
Right,
The lower right of the windshield.
yeah.
How long, Sandra, is it gonna be before we get these stickers ready?
And they usually don't have a nice truck.
Probably, how long to get,
Wait.
we printed those ones ourselves,
Yeah.
the actual ones for the bags. I don't know how many more of those
Well,
stickers we
reason why
have.
Well,
don't-
if you, those are actual stickers, I mean, do you wanna cling?
I'd rather see you do a clean because then it'd be easier for the consumer to,
Especially if you're gonna have them
Clean
redo
off.
every year.
yeah,
But-
it'd be easier to clean off of a windshield than,
Is that defeating our purpose of being able to pass it back
Well,
and forth to
maybe.
different people.
Right.
Yeah,
Hey,
probably.
you're
But
gonna
you
have to have
cannot
it.
restrict the clean too many times too.
Well, that's,
You know, you put it once and maybe you will be able to put it twice, but then it start taking, you know, curling in the curves and stuff like that.
Probably would defeat the purpose of the right.
well, I mean, yeah, it would seem that if we did one of those, then we're back to square one.
And that's
Yeah.
probably gonna cost more, clean's probably gonna cost more than a sticky.
Yeah.
The reason why I asked when, because so we can kinda get it out, keep the
Mhm.
tax sales from going.
Right.
No, but we could get it out and, I mean, we've already set it for the 1st of March.
Right. And is there a reason we wouldn't wanna make them good for longer than 1 year? Because, you know, and if they're free, you know, does a person really wanna be, if we're gonna make them stick, then, and we're gonna make people kinda have this permanent thing there, they'd probably appreciate it if they didn't have to scrape off last
Yeah.
year's and
Yeah,
put a
I-
new one on.
That's
I'd just
fine,
make it
too.
a sticker with no limitations. Then the only time they need a new one is when they trade a vehicle.
Right, when they trade a vehicle or
Exactly.
whatever the
That's a
case.
best idea.
Yeah, I mean,
Just
the only,
make it a
the
Yeah.
only downside
Permanent
that I can
one-time
think
sticker.
of to
Yeah.
making it indefinite is if they move away and are bringing stuff back, you
Right.
know? And how many times is that gonna happen?
Well, in
Yeah.
this town, you probably know that they move
Right.
a lot of people.
I-
So we wanna go with this, you get the sticker, put it on the windshield, and it's good till the sticker wears
Indefinite.
out.
Right, I would think so.
Yeah.
I put that in a motion, I guess.
Okay.
And
All
then-
right, well, we have I'll be right with you. We have a motion, is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Kathy?
I was gonna say, why don't you just get a thing that you can hang on the rear side, like a handicap thing?
Well, then we got people passing it back and forth that may not be Murfreesboro residents.
Right.
That's what we were trying to,
Have that.
that's all right.
Believe me, they
Gotta
do.
leave it back.
Yes,
Is
ma'am.
that all you need, Sam?
Just, so you know, I come from a town that, you know, we maybe get his vehicle stickers every year, and you can go to Walgreens and other stores and get, like another layer that you use, to put on before you put it on your vehicle, and then it peels off pretty easy.
Oh, okay.
Well, it's
You
nice
know,
to know.
it's good, and you can't keep redoing it, but it's just, you know, a couple bucks at the store, and it, you know, for people who don't want,
Sure.
all over their windows.
To have to be out there, yeah, with a hair dryer and a paint scrape or whatever.
So there's ways around it, and then it doesn't peel easily, but it does come off way easier than if you scrape it off.
Okay.
And we'll start this, I assume, as soon as Sandra can get the stickers ready.
Right, as soon as we can get them together, so.
Oh. Well, do we have any public comment on that?
Mr. Pittman?
I just have one question about the local independent alley. Something that you mentioned a couple times, I don't know if they've been addressed, there are several businesses that use dumpsters that are too large for those small trucks to pick up. And their only place to put their dumpster is, you know, there's several of them that don't have any other place but the alley to put the dumpster, and what do we do about those businesses?
Oh, I see what you're saying. Well, that just adds another wrinkle to it that I hadn't really considered.
But didn't they say they were servicing the businesses different? separate?
Daily.
Yeah.
I mean, so, it doesn't mean, they only do residential Mondays and Thursdays, but they're here every day of the week doing commercial
Dumpsters
things.
and-
Right. All right.
Any more public comment?
That's what I was gonna say, with housing, you know, they're here on Friday to pick up housing, and we have, you know, the dumpsters that they have to pick up. And when they had us change to the front loader that they dump, and they were basically the only one that could handle our
Mm-hmm.
quantity that we have.
Thank you, Alita.
Any more public comment? And we'll move on.
Okay.
Thank you.
That takes us to Public Works and Mr. Bill Pearson. Bill?
Well, this is the first time it's ever been in Public Works, a discussion on the Pond Creek Roberta Drive drainage issue. Gary and Mr. Bratton have been on that much more than I have, because I haven't anything at all to do with it, so.
Yeah, Bill, I apologize, I'm not sure.
That's okay.
How it landed there necessarily, but, I asked that it be put on there just because, Alderman McCollum, I know at some point we had, a few months ago, talked about renting a piece of equipment, and I thought that as springtime comes on, just wanted to bring it back up essentially, because I know that money's tight, but did we ever get a estimate on what that might cost
No, I think it's less than 5,000 a month,
to rent the equipment that we would need?
yeah.
Okay, all right. And do you, is there any other discussions with, Darren and his guys? At one point, Alderman Bratton had said that, and I know Darren's not here this evening, that the Public Works guys, or Darren had said that they felt like they could do the work.
They did, but I don't know if we got enough people anymore.
Understood?
No. No, and we get into that when we look at a piece of equipment that we're wanting to rent, if we go that route, and we need to see if they got somebody can run that. And what they talked about was a big mini hole.
Mm-hmm.
Not a big track hole, but one of the bigger mini holes with the reach on it, and where you can just scrape that out there and go on. And
Well, I just know that it was something that, last year, and as we were going into budget time, we had people here and we committed ourselves that we were gonna try to figure out a way to, address that issue, so,
The unfortunate news is we dropped it off the budget.
Right.
When Danny gets back, I can get Danny around with me, we'll go over there at Marion or call Kate and see what the biggest little mini hole they got that we can rent, what it'll cost. And I don't think it's gonna take a month to do that, but
I mostly would like to just have us formally consider that here because of, the conversations we've had with the residents out there. And so that way we can have the discussion and we either vote it down and say we're gonna try to figure out how to get it in next year's budget, or we, somehow figure out how to push forward with it, but at least that way, if we would get more feedback from folks, and, the only reason we maybe haven't is because we ain't had a real good hard rain, that comes down over the course of about 30 minutes.
It's coming.
Yeah, and it is.
well,
It's coming,
one thing
yeah.
before you can even consider going down through there is the right of way.
Yeah.
You just
Did we not
just
get
can't
some?
back down through somebody's property. now.
There are some permanent easements through that on the school district, we have permanent easements, there might be a couple of property owners, but those are the only ones I can find.
Mr. Ellis, was there not a easement across him?
I don't remember, Mayor, I think I've copied all those that were relevant,
Okay.
we can get those to City Hall.
Well, that's all I had on the item. I just wanted to kind of bring it back to life for a little discussion so that we can continue to try to rectify that issue.
So is there,
It's coming, so
Mm-hmm.
I think we need to do something.
we finished with that?
I believe so.
Is there any comment from anyone on anything in Public Works? Okay, go to the next.
All right, that takes us to Public Safety, chaired by Mr. Russell Brown. As we know, he's not here tonight, so we'll go to old business. We have this request for street lighting on Shoemaker Drive, and I have to admit that I've not made it down there to take a look at where the various poles may be.
There are no poles from Old 13 to the storage.
So there would have to be
From there on,
one.
there are even lights from there on.
So
I thought that was the area she was talking
And
about.
that's where the first light, there's actually two lights, one on either side of the street by the storage.
There are lights all the way from the storage area, all the way to 20th Street, actually.
Okay.
I don't think we need to do it at this time.
Now, they may not be burning, I don't know about that, I didn't drive down at night.
They were on when I was down through there the other night.
But from there
No
out to
ma-
the,
no matter
out
what
to
you
Old
do
13,
down
there are
there, people gonna
there are
walk
no
in the
poles
street,
at all.
street lights,
There are no
no
lights.
street,
Well,
there's no sidewalk.
there's no
Yeah,
sidewalk down there.
right.
The only other option you got, add a sidewalk on one side,
Mm-hmm.
and that's pretty expensive.
Yeah, one thing I would, of course, we can, and I'm not saying that I think we ought to do it, I'm just saying that we can, I think, expend motor fuel funds on street lighting. So if we come to a point where we, you know, the only thing I might do, and I think I already know the answer, but I just assume it, I just don't know what it would cost to set a pole down there and to add another light. I mean, Eric, any idea?
No, there are poles on the north side of the street. Now, there's two lights, one by the entrance to the storage area and then up across the street. And they're all yellow lights slash bulbs. Yeah, if they put a white light, brighter light out, it'd cover more area.
So could we just request that from Ameren to?
Well, I was gonna talk to you about that. I'll just call Dennis and see, if that's possible or not.
Okay.
Otherwise, just get up there and put a new bulb.
I keep getting confused. Is it MediaCom or Ameren that we keep trying to hammer out a franchise agreement with? It's Ameren?
That's not on there.
Well, there you go. You know,
The whole
yeah.
street, it's,
Yeah,
it's
could you put
really
that
the
in that,
orange
you know, you
light,
put enough hours
so
in,
you
put a
can
few
see
more.
and pretty much throughout town.
Well,
Well,
yes,
you
Barb.
know, if we just got the white lights, I didn't realize all those down there were yellow.
Yeah,
It maybe would be a little brighter.
yeah, same on commercial, all
Yeah.
those lights are yellow too, and so the visibility at night is really poor.
Of
Well,
course, the cost efficiency of the yellow is better than the bright white too, I believe.
I would request that we hold this on the agenda one more meeting, just so that we can get, it'll be, serve as a reminder to see if we can get some communication from Ameren. Maybe that might be a solution.
Yeah, it's just a phone call to Dennis tomorrow morning.
Okay.
I just instructed the night shift sergeant to have all those lights checked tonight to make sure they're all working.
Okay.
Verify they're all working.
Thank you, Chief. All right, if nothing further on that. That takes us to new business, approval of ordinance setting forth procedures for sale of property in possession of the police department. Chief, I'll turn to you, or Mr. Blake.
Well, this is just, this allows us, as we're cleaning up the evidence room, we had to, pass an ordinance so that we can dispose of abandoned property or property that's never been reclaimed or property that cannot be reclaimed because of the court status. So their ordinance is basically written off the state laws that allows us to do that.
And we don't have an ordinance allowing us to do that already?
We don't already. What the ordinance that's prepared does, it adopts the state statute, the Law Enforcement Disposition of Property Act. Then it fills in a couple blanks, the situation that the state act doesn't cover, surprisingly, to me at least, is that where a person is not known, and through reasonable inquiry, the police department cannot identify the person. There's a procedure for a sale of a property through advertisement, public auction. Where a person is known but just fails to come and get their property, there's not a procedure to sell that person's property. So this ordinance does some supplementation in providing that the person is to be notified if the person does not recover their property within 30 days after that notification, then they're going to be charged a storage fee by the police department until such time that the property is then sold, following those same procedures for sellers that are set forth in the state act. I guess one thing in the ordinance is prepared we would need to address, and the chief may have an idea about this, is what would be a daily charge for those people who, after they've been given notice, fail or refuse to come and get their property.
I have no idea where to start that conversation. I mean, I assume that there's, you know, we've got storage companies in Murfreesboro. I don't really know.
I guess it would be a fee they're provided for by the statute, the reasonable expenses of custody can be charged. We put in there, if there are expenses of custody, those are covered, that's provided by the state statute. if it needs to be. But what would be, that person would then have to be paid, paying to the police department for storage fees.
I guess it
After
would,
they've used it.
Well, I don't think we set it too excessively, because if we do, we're not talking about high dollar property, we won't ever get rid of it. We'll have to incur the cost of auctioning and all that. I would say maybe $1 a day or something like that, something reasonable, but if you get excessive. One case we're particularly dealing with is the guy's out of federal prison, but he's got like some tables back there that he bought with stolen credit cards and stuff like that. They're just taking a purpose we're trying to clean out. So it's either get them to come get them or sell them off, one or the other, so we can clean out our evidence.
any questions, thoughts from the council on this item?
We need a motion on how much a day.
Well, we would,
We
you know,
have to
and
have
if
an
the chief
ordinance.
doesn't feel that it's necessary that we even have that in there, that doesn't have to be in there as far as
Well, I don't think $1 a day is unreasonable, I just wouldn't wanna go much beyond that, cause they're never gonna come get it.
And it's just gonna be bookkeeping, they're never gonna pay that either.
But that's exactly right.
It would be, what it would act as is if the chief and police department went through the procedures of setting up an auction sale,
Mhm.
then for that person to come and get their property,
We can set
then
a
they have to come and pay up that storage fee then, before they can come and claim their property.
If
before
it
it's
was
sold.
after 30 days.
Correct.
It's essentially what they do with the tax sales at the sheriff's office.
Yeah.
He sets the rate at $6.24 or whatever this costs for the sale of the property.
Ms. Campos?
Yeah, because I have seen in Carbondale, they have that auction every year on claimed property
Mm-hmm,
in May, and they sell everything,
okay.
bikes and everything. That's a place to go.
So,
What kind of
I,
motion do you need?
I think if I hear the chief properly, we're looking, seems to be the pleasure of $1 a day.
Up to how many days?
I don't
Well, it
think-
would be until the sale.
Until the sale, you don't set a
Until
cap
the
on it,
sale?
yeah.
Oh, okay, until the auction, okay.
So it would be, we would need an ordinance, or excuse me, a motion adopting an ordinance, adopting the, Law Enforcement Disposition of Property Act as supplemented with $1 a day storage fee charged for those properties not picked up after 30 days.
Who wants to make that
I'll
motion?
make that motion, what he just said.
Yeah.
I second that. Just what he just
Do we
said.
have enough votes for that?
What he said.
It would just require a majority
Majority, okay.
form, there's not a special requirement.
Okay.
All right, I
Or
think
Mr.
we,
Jefferson.
Yes.
we have a motion and a second on that. All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have approval of ordinance amending the code on peddling and the definition of a peddler.
This just addresses specifically the energy sellers, was the catalyst for this.
Ah.
The energy resellers.
Everybody's
We
favorite.
found, we started having all these problems that we're not legally able to cite them the way the ordinance was presently written. So I talked to Richard, he, had me rewrite the ordinance, I sent it to them. I think what they produced is my rewrite. It just adopts intangible services and goods, where before the ordinance had only tangible. So with this, we'll be able to deal with the people who are selling services like the energy reselling, whereas before we haven't been able to legally.
Okay, and none of those should have been permitted, because I've not been,
Right, but under the ordinance, we can't cite them for not having permits because they don't fall under our peddler requirements.
I
But
see.
under this, they
Nothing
will.
tangible that
this
they're
one-
selling, it's a service.
Right, so now it'll be intangible and tangible goods and services.
all right,
I'll
anybody?
make that motion.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Any public comment concerning things of public safety? Mr. Laughlin?
They give some consideration about the lights on Shoemaker. That road is wide enough, just some simple striping may give you some space on one side of the road for walking and, you know,
That
clearly
is a
marked.
smart idea.
Mm-hmm.
Just something to think about.
That is a smart idea.
It's a good suggestion. Thank you for that.
And you could go paint little footprints on that so they'd know that was.
You ran a bike?
Yeah.
Chief
or by-
Swafford,
Yeah.
volunteered to have that paint job taken out of his budget just now.
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
See?
And-
Maybe another comment?
Yes, Kathy.
The lights on Schumacher, they just might be old,
Yeah.
you know, and maybe they've yellowed through the years.
Yeah,
But
sometimes
there's a
those,
lot of holes out there.
those casings sometimes can yellow
Yeah,
also.
and they look like those plastic ones,
Right.
but I don't know,
Climb up there and check out.
no problem.
On your way home tonight.
Right. All right, that takes us to personnel, I believe, and Ms. Barb Hughes.
I just have one thing, Mayor, that I would like to ask you,
Sure.
and also John. Have either, well, I know you see Mark all the time, have either one of you, while I was like down with my surgery, spoken with or done anything to proceed with FOP?
John, do you, I mean, I can speak to that.
Where are
but-
we now?
I know, Mark and Amy have communicated some,
Yes.
but we haven't met lately.
Okay, so what do we need to do? I mean, this has been hanging on a long time. I think we need to, you know.
I believe
try to-
Mark gave some direction to the mayor.
I did have,
Recent?
Yes.
I did have a conversation with Mark, probably, it's been within the last week to 10 days.
Good.
And also had a conversation with Chief earlier today. And I think really what we need to do at this point is just have another labor committee meeting, specifically.
With FOP or just with?
I think just
the
with
labor
us.
committee? Okay,
And then
and
so,
Mark?
and Mark, and then set
Okay,
a
and then we need to set a date?
future date, because I think we are making progress.
Good, okay.
I don't know that we're, you know, ready to sign off on anything, but we're plodding along.
Well, even when the last one I was at, I thought we were making progress, and I felt it was going the right direction. And
Yeah.
I got some kind of email from Mark when right 2 days after my surgery, but I hadn't heard anything since then. I really hate to see us put it off.
No, we need to
We just
really
need to move along with it.
get to moving on that, because it's been lingering.
Did you have something,
Well,
John?
I think time is sort of on our side because we're sort of getting to the end of the memorandum of understanding that the chief had.
On the
Well, that is
12-hour
true.
shifts, right?
Is that the end of March, Chief?
Oh, April, something.
April?
End of April,
End of April?
April 7th, but there's actually a vote on it tomorrow among union members.
Okay, thank you.
Whether it can continue or not.
Thank you, that's good. So after that, then we can kind of see how that's been going and what they're thinking about in the way of keeping that. That may help with our negotiation.
Right.
Information to discuss with Mark. That's all I had under old business, unless you can think of anything, Mayor, or anything that came up while I was gone.
I do not.
I have no new business unless anyone else does. And public comment on personnel within the city. Hearing none, I think we can get out of personnel.
Thank you very much, Ms. Hughes. That takes us to the mayor's report, and I've got a couple of appointments I'd like to recommend this evening. One is a recommendation of appointment of Jan Kerr to the Sally Logan Public Library Board. Questions concerning that?
Second.
All right, we have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we have a recommendation of appointment of Ruby Sindek to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Mr. Urbis brought her to me, and we talked, and I entertain a motion for Ms.
So
Sindek.
moved.
Second.
And if you don't know, that's Ruby Mappin, her former married name, Ruby Mappin, who sold real
Oh,
estate.
okay,
for a
I know
number
who
of
that
years.
is now. I didn't know this name. Thank
She's
you.
remarried.
All right, I'm not sure, did we vote on that?
No, it was a second.
All right, all in favor signify by saying aye. Opposed? Motion carries. This next item is just informational. I've had a good experience, I guess is one thing to describe it, with Miss Mahoney's fifth grade class project. They invited me out there about a month ago, and the class had identified some things that they thought were, problems in town, including, litter and homelessness and a variety of other things. And so out of those things that they had presented to me, they've decided that they want to do a cleanup. And so we've settled on April the 4th at 9 a.m. We're going to meet at the Berean Church, and we're going to supply some trash bags from the city and get those kids involved. And I plan on being there. And if anybody else would like to come along, I'm sure that they'd appreciate the help.
Some gloves too.
Yes. Yes, I know. They picked the date and the time, so,
It's on a Tuesday?
yeah.
It's a Tuesday? Oh, I thought well, they probably can't do it on a weekend perhaps.
I don't know. I asked them to pick a
It's a
date
field trip for
that
them.
worked good for them.
April
And
4th is on a Tuesday.
They're not gonna pick a date.
because when you're in front of a fifth grade class, you are not the boss. But
I think that's really neat.
yeah, it has been. It's been good. All right. I don't think I have anything else, so that'll take me to council member request. Ms. Hughes,
I don't have anything, thank you.
Mr. Voss,
Nothing today.
Mr. McComb.
Yeah, I forgot to bring it up a while ago. How many people that are here, council members, are gonna walk the parade Saturday morning? That gives us a chance to know, I bought some candy today, if we need to get more candy or what. You know, if we're gonna be 2 people, we probably got enough. If there's gonna be 6 or 7, we're gonna have to buy more candy. I mean, that's, you gonna be there? There's
I'll be
2? 3?
I'll be there. What time is it?
I believe it's 11, isn't it?
11?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it starts at like 6th.
You know, usually, I've never gotten to walk in that before, because we've always been in Colorado.
Hopefully you're not ours.
No, I'm not.
So this starts.
It's by San Andrews.
Right
right?
as
This
So-
side,
So that-
right?
Yeah,
West-
it goes west to 17th Street.
7th
Yeah.
Street down by, the old Texaco station where you turn to go,
7th, you said?
7th Street.
Yeah, they're by
Need
Bartell's.
to be there at 10:30.
10:30 at 7th.
It's pretty
Street.
quick.
Yeah,
I know once I get to the other end, I gotta head to my granddaughter, she walks it with me, but she's got 2 soccer games and Pinckney go right after that, so I,
Just keep walking.
yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe her, not me, it wouldn't bother me. So that's 4 others beside me and the mayor that's gonna be here right now. So,
all right.
Get more
Well,
candy.
I've
Would you
been
make it
trying to
get warm
find,
by then?
I've been trying to find
Supposed to be
Tootsie Rolls and
54, I think.
lollipops, and I can't find them in town.
What's that, Gary?
Tootsie Rolls and lollipops, I may stop over at Sam's when
I'm there
I
every
go to
day.
Mount Vernon and come back
Yeah,
tomorrow, or Harrisburg.
okay. All right, Mr. Pearson.
No.
Okay. Mr. Urbis?
I just had this list on my,
Oh,
in front of me, and
I should have, I handed that out before the meeting, and I forgot to even
Yeah,
comment
I
on it.
forgot to ask
Forgive
that.
me for that. One of the things that I hear sometimes from residents, they'll say something like, I got a, well, and we've went past that too, so we'll come back to that also. I'll hear from people that sometimes get a citation from the code enforcement department, and they'll say, you know, I'm the only one that's got a code ticket in town in 20 years, you know, this guy over here and that one over there, and there's a junk car here, there, and yonder. And so I just wanted to share with the council, this is from January the 1st through February 22nd, a list of all the different, I don't know if citation, Eric, is the right word, but notice
Notices to clean up.
that,
These are notices though, not citations.
right, and then,
And over cars.
right, and you'll see sort of out to the right-hand side, a follow-up note about whether things have been taken care of or not. So, I just sometimes think it's important to point out that our, different departments are working, are busy, and, you know, it's up to us as a council to determine whether this is what we expect or whatever, but it's just for your information. So, anyway.
I appreciate it. What's the NC stand for?
I didn't see the list.
I mean, there's okay, it says follow-up and notes, there's
No
okays.
change, no change.
No
probably.
change, okay.
Right.
I also wanted to say, I don't know how many's on that list, but I know you sent out, well, I'm sure some of mine are on it too. Well over 1,000 last
Yeah.
So he's
So is there a
out.
financial penalty or?
Some of them are. We do have, it's always have, you've got a handful of people, no matter what you do, they will not clean anything up. You leave, you got to clean it up, and stuff do it again, and
Yeah.
then tickets too. So that's at 5%.
There's a house I
Society.
threatened to go clean up the yard, you know that.
Well,
And-
I mean, I've had it where it doesn't matter.
Yeah, it'd be,
Cleaned up tickets, I've written one guy 60 tickets one time. And so it didn't matter.
He needs a plaque somewhere, a historical marker
He
for
had
that
one in
many
the jail.
tickets. Yeah. Oh, okay, perfect.
Down the hole now.
So, anyway, I'll try to bring that to Eric, help remind me quarterly. I just, it's good information to share.
Definitely.
So, and I guess, Gloria, forgive me, because there's something else here too that Gary just, showed me. This is that we didn't get to. It's not on the agenda, but it's a letter from Boss Heating and Air Conditioning. We're kinda out of order here and addressing it, but I don't know, Brian, are you aware of this proposal from Boss?
Yes, as stated in here, we had, the air conditioner that services the server room in the basement, malfunctioned about a week and a half ago. Temperature got up over 90 degrees in the room, and our boss came in and repaired the unit. As is all the other units in this building, different pieces have gone out in that over the years, and we've never replaced the system as a whole. We've put Band-Aids on it, replaced this piece or that piece. And as I was speaking with Neil, he was looking at the load in the server room by itself and basically explained to me that that unit would struggle to keep just that room cool with its equipment, let alone the other rooms that it's servicing. And he said he was gonna write up a proposal for the city as to what he would recommend the best solution would be, given the situation and the constraints that we have down there to work with. So this letter is his proposal to us as to what he thinks would be the most cost-effective solution.
Yes, Sandra.
I do have an estimate for a new unit. I did not share that with the council, from Voss, on the off chance that you guys wanted to bid it out. That way it wouldn't become public.
Right. Okay, well, we can't act on it because it's not an agenda item, but, Barb, did you have some? Okay. But we'll make sure to have it on the agenda for the next meeting. I don't know that this is an emergency in the sense that we need to act on it tonight.
No, they've repaired the unit that's down there, and it
Okay.
is doing its best to keep it comfortable.
Okay.
I think we should bid it. I mean, if we're gonna look at doing this, I think we need to bid it.
300,000?
I would be,
That's it.
in agreement. I'm not sure, obviously what that bid is, but there are some things that this obviously wouldn't fall under our service agreement or anything of that nature.
It's not over what we have to bid out. I think that what we have to bid out is 20,000 or above, isn't it, Richard?
Yes.
So if it's under 20,000, you don't have to bid it. If,
Mhm.
emergency, you have to get it done.
For bids, so it
Okay.
would be up to the council wants to
Okay.
solicit
Yeah.
bids. But it does need to be on the agenda.
Well, we'll hold this over to the next agenda and then we'll make a decision from there. Okay, back to council member requests. Ms. Campos.
I'm quiet tonight.
Okay. Go to department head requests, Mr. Blake, Mr. Sheffer, Chief Swafford.
We'll probably start our annual hydrant testing next month, by the committee.
Okay. And we had talked about this earlier. Once we get through that, I would like a list turned into the council of those hydrants that are not functional in their location.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay, thank you. Anything further, Chief Swafford? Chief Roberts? Okay. Brian Manwaring?
Nothing.
Jim Stewart? Eric Kennedy? Mr. Laughlin? All right. Ms. Ripley?
Yes. Team Murfreesboro's got a trivia night coming up next month. Just encourage everybody to put a team together.
April the 21st at the Elks.
Yep.
Anything else for the good of the order? If not, I'd entertain a motion to adjourn. Is there a second? All in favor? All right. Yes, sir. Does she have what?
Danny's still out of town, he's sick.
Went to Hawaii, I don't know if they're gonna keep him, maybe they'll keep him.
Well, I doubt
Yes.
that.
No, they won't keep him long. He'll be in the budget.
Yeah. Sorry.
I would see that.
Little off center tonight.
Buddy Payne, they go on a lot of those things.
Joyce gave me. No wonder I was.
Buddy has time
We send a letter to Mr. Writings and wants to resign.
Buddy's wife is dead.
Dollar General, Sam's Club, you can pick up a big bag.
Of candy.
We don't
Okay.
need much, we're really in.
I ask you.
10:30,
It goes quick.
Well, yeah, we don't need.
It wasn't there last time.
Oh, yeah, I didn't say anything about that, but
That looks really nice.
Got your seal, huh?
I did, yeah. Yeah, from Silkworm, and I don't even know, did they bill us for that?
I haven't seen one yet.
Okay.
Don't call it, don't call it.
Yeah, don't call and ask.
Yeah, I'm not going to. Yeah, I'm not going to.
Mayor.
Yeah.
Josh, what would happen if we sent a letter to Writings and